training of ASEAN Master Trainers for Housekeeping Division and Common Core Competencies was held from 13th of November to 1st of December 2012 in Bali Tourism Institute, Nusa Dua, Bali. This training course is supported by ASEAN Secretariat and AADCP-2. The training course was conducted by William Anglis Institute, who has been involved in developing common ASEAN tourism curriculum and housekeeping toolboxes. Through this kind of training activity, it is hoped that the mutual recognition arrangement or MRA on tourism professionals can be further implemented by all ASEAN member states based on the commitment established.
This story goes back to about 4 years ago when the ASEAN countries decided it would be good to have a common curriculum for tourism among all the ASEAN member states. With a common curriculum for tourism and hospitality, that would mean that everybody could study the same competencies, and that would mean they could get the same certificate and they could transfer from one country to another. This was a great idea. It all fits in with the whole idea of ASEC and the ASEAN Economic Community. That's what the starting point was.
The participants are from every ASEAN country except Brunei and Singapore. The participants in the main have come from educational environments. They are trained teachers. Some have come from government departments or government vocational areas, and others have come from private training institutions.
Since 2004, Australia supported the ASEAN member states to establish the ASEAN Economic Community in tourism, ASEAN Tourism Professional. With Australian support, now ASEAN has a standard competition for tourism professional. ASEAN also have the standard curriculum for ASEAN tourism professional. And after the development of the toolbox for tourism professional, we now delivering the training for the trainers and master trainer and master assessor to implement the toolboxes. We also now in the process to do the feasibility study of regional secretariat for tourism professional, and also support the gap analysis of implementation of mutual recognition arrangement in tourism professional for ASEAN in the region.
William Anglis Institute is a hospitality and tourism training provider in Melbourne. They were commissioned by ASEAN to develop the regional qualification framework and recognition system on tourism. As a result, 242 units of competency and 46 toolboxes on housekeeping and core competencies have been developed. Each toolbox contains the training manuals, trainer guides, PowerPoint presentations, and assessor manuals. Currently, 98 toolboxes on front office, food and beverage, and food production are being developed and will be completed by the end of 2013. It is planned that another 98 toolboxes on tour and travel divisions will be developed in 2014.
We started on the 13th of November and we worked from 9 to 4, and we allowed some time for consultation after that each day, including Saturdays as well. We had 27 master trainers and assessors from 8 ASEAN member states. Indonesia provided us with 6 people. 3 of them were from the STP and they paid for their own participation. 3 were from other parts of Indonesia. Laos PDR 3, the Philippines 3, Myanmar 4, Vietnam gave us an extra place, so there were 2 from Vietnam, 3 from Malaysia, 3 from Thailand, and 3 from Cambodia.
The best approach would be for them to experience what was required in the development of a training program. They all know how to develop training programs, which was an advantage to us. So we could put them back into the situation, but this time we gave them some templates on a training plan, a training program, session plans, and an assessment guide. And what we asked them to do was to utilise the toolboxes, and that meant that they had to go through 3 documents. The first document, the trainer's guide, which consists of PowerPoints and trainer notes, the assessor guide, which had examples of assessment tools within it, and the trainee manual, which has a number of activities and supporting content. So they hadn't seen those 3 resources before, so that meant that they had to read them. Now, to force them to read them, we constructed a template which required them to identify content from the toolboxes, training methods from the toolboxes, and assessment activities from the toolboxes. So as they were constructing up their training programs, they were going into each of those volumes and extracting the information that they thought was most appropriate for the training of the particular competency they had chosen to work with. So the overall experience has been an experiential approach to their learning. They were then required, once they had put that information together, to give us an example of their teaching method and teaching style. So we asked them to do a little bit of the session plan. The next thing that they were required to do was actually to move out of that role model, that model that they were playing as developing the training program, and they had to sit back from where they were and then look at the experience, reflect on the experience, and then from that reflection, they then had to construct up a training program that they could use for their countries when they go back to implement it. So we made them revisit all the steps they had been through, and they developed during the program some significantly worthwhile concept maps and flow charts of the content that they would need to include in a train the trainer using the toolbox programs. So in summary, they had to use the toolboxes, look back, then put together a training program for that process.
During the group work, it seems that the relations between participants have grown immensely. The goal of this task was for each group to give presentations on how they deliver the training plans and session plans as a master trainer to their trainees.
A lot more group work and a lot of discussion of brainstorming of how we would use those toolboxes in a training plan. And really in that second week, it was all about training plans. How do I work out? I've got a group that I'm going to teach. How do I work out how to teach them to prepare rooms for guests or to communicate on the telephone or any of the other competencies? How do I prepare them using those toolboxes? It wasn't all about who's going to make the best presentation. It was about how do we do this cooperatively. One of the words that's really important in adult training is evaluation. And evaluation and assessment is not just how people went, did they succeed, didn't they? Because we talk about things like formative evaluation. So we had a form, and we did this 2 or 3 times during the course, where we stopped at points and said, look, let's have a look at what we've done. Is it working for you? Can we change it? Can we make it better? So we handed out evaluation forms. We did that in class. We discussed it. And then we did an end of course one as well, quite a long one. But before we did it, we broke into workshop groups and we said, what are the 3 best things that you've got from this training? And what are the 3 worst things? And then they started telling us some of the worst things, which was actually really, really good because we got fantastic feedback. And it meant that we can adjust the program for an even better program next time. And of course we got lots and lots of very positive comments. So that's been a great process. Evaluation is extremely important.
The participants showed an amazing response to the model that we showed them, and they responded very positively. They were hardworking and they were very diligent. For some of them, the training methods are very different to what they've been used to. So they had to be very open to suggestion and open to change. So I think that the result, as we've seen in the last 3 days, has been very positive.
One of the objective of the IC and the economic pillar is to facilitate the movement of the business people, the skilled laborers and the talents. How to move people from each member state. They have what we call the MRA, that stands for the Mutual Recognition Arrangements. So what we recognize is the qualification of the tourism professional, which is provided by the what you call the certificate of competence, which is based on our ASEAN Common Quality Standard and tourism professional, as well as the CITC, because this is the basic of the MRA.
I'm really happy to be here, and from this training course, I can now learn how to use the master trainer toolbox for CBT training.
This is a wonderful opportunity for all of the trainers of all of the ASEAN countries to come together and learn how to become master trainers.
Now, after we graduate here, we have the responsibility or obligation for 2 years. When we go back to our country, we have to deliver these programs nationwide.
We call it to cascade this train-to-trainers methodology to trainers all over Indonesia, and we are trainers in Indonesia coming from the west part, middle part and eastern part of Indonesia. Then we are going to divide the Indonesia into 3 regions. Then we are going to work on it in the coming 2 years.
And we enjoy being together for 3 weeks in Bali, and we learn a lot, not just only friendships among our friends, but also experience from trainers, from the programs, and also knowledge from materials that we have learned.
John, Judy, Helen, they did a very good job. They conducted a very professional manners. Even though I'm a trainer, but I need to learn something from John and Judy, the spirit and the way they handle the participants. That's what I like from the trainers.
William Angliss Institute is committed to this program and has a number of people now who have been involved in the program, not just writing and constructing the toolboxes and teaching, but also looking at something like a gap analysis. What's needed in each of the countries in order to implement the toolboxes. So, that was one project we've done. We're also involved in a project to establish a regional secretariat for tourism.
Yes, for Indonesia, of course, our master trainers will be assist our ASEAN member states to provide more trainings to the candidates in our region, so we can have more trainers and also users that will meet with the standard. Because at the time we try to provide this training based on our ACC STP as well as our CATC. So by these master trainers, actually, we hope that the trainers will generate our more trainers, because it is master trainers, you see. And for Indonesia itself, it is also our key person to deliver our trainings in housekeeping division nationwide.
Australia is continuing support to ASEAN in the next future program through the ASEAN Australia Development Cooperation Program Phase 2. We will have ASEAN tourism professional to get the standard that they need for the tourism industry, because we know that tourism plays an important role for ASEAN economy, and then with developed tourism industry, It will boost economic growth and then also drive change across the ASEAN region. Australian support to the tourism professional is part of ASEAN assistance for ASEAN to establish ASEAN Economic Community by 2015. As I said before, that tourism plays important role in ASEAN economic. So we are sure that with our Australian support, then ASEAN Economic Community by 2015 will be able to achieve in the tourism sector. So this is a good sector that mostly people and also stakeholders in ASEAN see the benefit and really committed to progress the ASEAN tourism industry.
Many people in ASEAN, especially for industry people, will, let's say, know, also master and implementing all these standards in order to be recognized by other member states through this MRA, because we recognize their competence so they can move easily to other countries. Because in every member states, they have their own national standard. So that's why, based on their national standard also, we formulate what we call the ASEAN Common Competence Standard. So during the Master Assessor training, as well as Master Trainer training, so they know, they master this all standard. Of course, at the beginning, only for the housekeeping department, housekeeping labor division. But later on, because we are going to have also the Master Trainer and Master Assessor program for other 6 labor division. So we do hope that by 2015, we will have all these Master Trainer and Master Assessor, and as well as we are doing the training program not only in each member state but also regionally. So every Master Assessor and Master Trainer should ready to, let's say, to do a service to other member states.